Hey, this is Ramon, Channels Alpha 4, and I've been hearing something really stupid lately, especially on Twitter, and it's about religion. Something that recently I've been showing a lot of interest in, and so it's on my mind. So I've been hearing this, that religion's supposed to be blindly tolerant, or that it's openly accepting, or that it's um, supposed to be easy. I've read a lot of religious texts in my life. Every year I read the Taoist stuff, the Book of Tea, the Tao Te Ching, the Art of War, the Book of Five Rings. And I've read the entire Bible about 6 times, and that's Old and New Testament. And I'm currently reading it again for a series that I'm doing. I've read some of the Quran before, and I'm currently doing a full read through for another series that I'm doing. I've read some Buddhist scriptures back in college for an Eastern religions course. I've read the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads. I don't know if I've read the Vedas. I think I have. And I can tell you this. Religion is not blindly tolerant. It's just not. Most religions, at least most religions that I've read or that I'm familiar with, have at least 3 concepts in common. And those concepts are the division of human nature. And this is true in most philosophy, at least until we get to the modern and postmodern stuff, which that is there is an animal nature, a human nature, and a divine nature. And what religion is, or is supposed to be when practiced properly and with the proper aim, it's the arrow metaphor for sin, if you're familiar with that one. And that's, so we have a human nature, and that's the nature that we're stuck in. And nobody lives up to a higher nature than that, because that's who we are. But it's capable for us to go to a lower nature, which is an animal nature. So what we want to do is aim for the divine nature. That's our goal. So religion, when practiced properly, is a challenge to humans to rise above their own nature to a better nature and to comply with that better nature. And that better nature is harder. So in the Christian sense, if lust and is bad and adultery is bad, so the goal is not to simply not give in to those things, but to rise above them. So the goal is not to cheat, it's almost never to have sex. Okay? And that goes all the way back to the time of Jesus. There were cults, Jewish cults, who would try and do that. I think they're called ascetic. Anyway, they had a practice. This is where the Dead Sea Scrolls are from, I believe, is one of these sects. They had a practice of not getting married and not having sex, because they were trying to rise not only above their animal nature, but above their human nature. So the Christian idea of turn the other cheek. If somebody wants your shirt, give them your coat. If somebody demands your service, give them your life. Non-violence and non-resistance and martyrdom. And not in the violent sense of the word, but in the sacrificing sense of the word. And serve them and pray for your enemy and love your enemy no matter what. and help your enemy become a better person. Help them be fulfilled and help them find peace and happiness. That is a very high challenge that even other religions don't understand. Many religions don't understand that about Christianity, and when they look at things like the Crusades or the Inquisition, they can't understand how even we can believe such things, but we do. Just because some of our ancestors took the wrong path doesn't mean that the faith took the wrong path. It doesn't mean that the people who believe now believed as one group believed at one specific point in time. So what does that mean? Well, it means that if you want to be a great human, you try to be as good as possible. So you don't aim low and hit the ground. You don't go to your animal nature. So you're trying not to give in to your animal needs, but you're also trying not to give in to your selfish human wants. So you're not even here. You're trying to be as good as a spiritual being, as a divine being could be. And yeah, you're going to fail, but failing at this curve means that you hit your mark. Get it? And I know that's hard for a lot of people to understand. Atheists, yeah, that's hard for them to understand, sure. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people under 25. That's hard for them to understand whether they call themselves spiritual or non-spiritual or whatever. They can't understand purpose failure. They can't understand shooting up higher than you can possibly get to reach this goal. They think that the idea is to reach the top goal. No, the idea is to aim for the top goal, but to actually get to this goal. And they can't understand that. It doesn't make any sense to them. How can failure be a goal? They see it as some kind of hypocrisy, the way that a child sees a parent striving as hypocrisy. But that's the point. You're supposed to strive for the better nature. Strive to be better than what you are, to rise above your animal nature, rise above your human nature, to be something better, be something more. And that's beautiful, and that's what religion is when you don't look at it as theology. Now, I think separating theology out of religion is a stupid idea. Narrative is important, story is important, and taking that away, taking that idea and that concept and that ideal away from religion is foolish. So that's not what I'm saying to you. I'm not saying take that away. I'm saying that when you look at religion at an abstract, at what religion is to people, it's not just rites and rituals and practices. It's usually examples of great men or great people and how to live a life like them, and to notice that even when they fall, they get back up. So it's kind of inspirational that way. And it's also a definition of what the divine is. And it's like, hey, here's the better nature. Here are the rules that you can never live up to, but try to live up to them anyway. And I know that's hard for some people to understand, but that's what religion is. It's challenging. It's hard. It's truth. It's non-compromising. It's not all-inclusive. It's not politically correct. And it's not trying to be. It doesn't care about that. So I just thought I'd clarify that, because that really did bother me when I saw somebody saying that somehow it's it's perverting what religion's supposed to be, that having rules and standards is some kind of misapplication or misunderstanding of religion. Read any religious text. It's not a misunderstanding. That is what religion is. It's a challenge to be better than you are, better than you can ever possibly be, and to strive. It's not hypocrisy to fail. It's hypocrisy not to try. And that kind of concept is hard for someone who doesn't believe to understand. And on that note, there's another thing that was attached to this that just bothered me insanely, which is the idea that somehow it's old white writers that are controlling society and religion, and that it's old white men keeping people my skin color down. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Jesus had bronze skin and wool hair, and he was Jewish. Okay? Mohammed was Arabic. Confucius was Chinese. Muramoto Musashi was Japanese. These are not white men. Okay? I have no idea where you guys are getting this idea from, but they're not. Christianity, Paul was Jewish. Okay, you can argue Roman, Jewish, and Greek. You can make an argument for all three of those, but none of those are Anglo-Saxon. And if you want to go with Anglo-Saxon religion, you'd have to go to Norse or Druid. Okay? Pagan or neo-pagan. That would be a Anglo-Saxon based English religion. So you want to look for a white religion, you'd have to look for a religion that died out a few thousand years ago. Like, at least 1,000 years ago, maybe 1,500 years ago was the last time there were any active practitioners of most of those faiths that you'd consider white. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Just the people who wrote the great books. Look at Spinoza and look at any of those names. They're not Smith and Jones, man. I mean, if you're talking about Luther, if you're talking about Calvin, sure. You have some Germans and you have some Swedes and you have some Norwegian and Dutch, sure. But if you're looking at the founders of those thoughts, where those thoughts come from, they're not coming from Europe and they're not coming from Anglo-Saxon history. That's just not where they're originated from. They're from the Middle East and from the East itself. A lot of our ideas are, from India and China and Japan. And our other ideas are from Rome and Greece and Jerusalem. And that's where they're from. I don't know where you're getting this idea that they're from somewhere else, but almost all culture originates in Mesopotamia and Egypt. All culture. The cultures that didn't originate from those places died out. So I have no idea what you guys are talking about when you say stuff like that. Just open up a history book and look. And if you want to talk about religion, open up a religious book and look what it says. And these books are not new. These books are thousands upon thousands of years old. So, anyway, I just thought I'd clear that up because it's ridiculous when I hear stuff like that. And I fell for it once when I was younger too. When I was a kid, someone said that the Bible doesn't say anything against homosexuality, and so I decided to look it up. Guess what? It says a lot against homosexuality. It just does. Leviticus, Deuteronomy, Paul, all the Pauline letters. There's a lot of misogyny in there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff about separation of the races. To be fair, races meant people, and people at that point, peoples with an S is how it's translated, actually means religion and culture. It doesn't mean nationality, it doesn't mean ethnicity. But it's in there, and to deny it, to try to say that it's not there, to try to meet your current standard, that's ridiculous. This stuff was written thousands of years ago, where protecting the in-group was important. And for a lot of you now who are saying these wacky things about religion, you're currently in a culture war where you're trying to protect your own personal in-group. It's the same thing. So, I mean, I don't know where you're getting your theology from, but your mother or your father or your best friend or the television or that book of fiction isn't going to help you understand religion, okay? Reading Twilight or Harry Potter is not going to explain actual religious theology to you, okay? That isn't real witchcraft. I mean, come on, guys. You know, when I was younger, I was into vampires and ghosts, and I decided to look it up. You know how far back vampires go? To about the 1500s. That's it. You get Varney the vampire, and that's it. Before that, they're not a thing. They're just not. Ghosts aren't real. You can look it up, and you can go back. You go back to the old ghost stories, and the same ghost stories that they tell now are the same ghost stories they told way back when. Human nature hasn't changed. You go back and read Livy and Herodotus, and you'll see people doing the same thing that they do today. Everything that's going on today has happened before in the past. Human nature has not changed that much in the last 3,000 years, 4,000 years. Just hasn't. So I don't know where you guys are getting your ideas or your information from, but opening up any history book from any culture, I don't care if it's Native American, Mesopotamian, Japanese, Chinese. There's not a lot of African literature out there, but there's some. Human nature hasn't changed in all that time. Like it just hasn't. And the Bible is not written by a bunch of old white men. And it's like I don't get what you're talking about. So, anyway, go read a real book, something nonfiction, learn something. All right, peace, bye, like, subscribe.